Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're here to help you build your cloud computing career. Perhaps you desire to become a cloud architect, or you desire to be a cloud engineer or an enterprise architect. Whatever the case is, we're here to help you. Whether it's getting your first cloud architect job or wanting to know the exact cloud architect roadmap and how to become an architect, how to go from AWS certified to actually having the skills to get hired, or anything else we can do to actually help you build your cloud computing career, that's why we're here. My name's Mike Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been a cloud architect, enterprise architect, business architect, network architect for over 25 years. And I've spent more than 2 decades helping people like you either get your first tech job, get promoted, negotiate a raise, or whatever it takes to build elite computing careers. I'm here with Alonzo Coleman. He's my chief marketing officer. He's also a fantastic cloud architect. And he's an expert in branding, in marketing, and also digital transformation. And he's here with me to help answer your career questions. Alonzo has 30 plus years experience in leadership and marketing. That's why he's here with me to help guide you build the most elite cloud computing career. We're here to help you, so please ask us your questions. You know, I was able to reach principal architect status in less than 2 years. Not the normal 10 to 20 years, or most people don't even get there, because as soon as I started my career, I found an executive and said, what do you want in the absolute best network architect? I asked one of the vice presidents, and he said to me, Mike, I need this, 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 and this. A year later, I had those skills. 2 years later, I was a principal architect, and the rest of my career has been history. And I've held every major leadership role you can think of, from running an industry vertical to just being a lead enterprise architect and helping other architects get there. And that's why we're here. So ask us your questions. You don't ask us your questions, we don't know what your goals are, we don't know what your needs are, and we're not in a position to help you. My team will kill me if I don't mention these 2 things, so I want to mention them. Tonight, we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, and it's tonight. And we're going to talk for about 30 minutes, and after that, we will have 2 hours live on Zoom to answer any question you have. You want to think your skills are good enough? You want a 5-minute mini interview to see if you're ready? I'll ask you that. You want guidance on how to reach your career? I'll ask you that. Whatever it takes. Normally, we charge $1,200 an hour for a consult with me, and there's a 17.5-week wait right now. And that's why I come online twice for free. Once on this question and answer session, and once on one of these free webinars. And here you can ask your questions in the chat box, and please ask them, because I want to help you. But also tonight, we can speak face-to-face live. You can turn on your camera and we can talk live. So let's help you build your career. Also, it's my birthday. Last week was my birthday, my 27th anniversary, which is exciting for me. My wife has tolerated me for 27 years, which makes her the best woman in the entire world. And I love her to death. And I'm super grateful that she's been my wife. So we're celebrating some big things. And everybody knows my favorite thing is when somebody gets cloud hired. It's Alonzo's favorite thing. It's Chris from my team's favorite thing, although he's in the back end. He's a little under the weather today. So it's our favorite thing. In fact, I took off the whole week last week. And the only messages I got were the cloud hires that Alonzo kept sending me, because he knew even on my birthday it would be great. So to celebrate my birthday, we have 40% off, which brings the cost of our training to less than 2 days for our average graduate's pay. It's less than 2 days to build the career. Not the $350,000 that I had to spend to get to become an elite architect. Not anything like that. And you know, most jobs that pay $218,000 per year on average, and we've got plenty of architects getting $800,000 as well, take 10 years in school, $300,000 to $500,000 of student loans, like a physician or an attorney. Not this with the cloud architecture world. We're getting people hired for less than 2 days' pay for the average graduate. So take advantage of this now. Please bring us your questions so we can help you build the absolute most elite career. Don't be shy. Don't be shy at all, because we really, really, really want to get you there. So, Alonzo, you want to say anything before we begin?
Well, it's good. Although we were so excited that you actually took a vacation and you didn't take your laptop, we were ecstatic about it, but we're always glad to have you back, Mike. Mike had a great vacation. It was well deserved, to say the least. This man works so hard. You have no idea how hard this man works to ensure everyone has what they need to become the cloud architect of their dreams. Tirelessly. I mean, sometimes he even starts before we even start the day, and we end up having some late night meetings as well to ensure everyone has a full experience. But without further ado, I wanted to just say that for everyone, but I'm just glad everyone is here from all over the world to be able to join us. Ask your questions. We really want you to prepare you and get you ready to have that cloud architect career, that job. And it's a challenge to get there, because you're going to need the competency, you're going to need the business acumen, and a lot of other things in between, but it is attainable. We're able to help, and we're looking forward to doing so.
And I love, while we're waiting for people to ask questions, we've got a nice audience here. We've got people in Texas, people in UAE, where I used to work constantly. I loved it over there. People in South Africa, I can see here. And I'm sure we've got many, many, many other people. So tell us where you're at.
Yeah. We all know Mike's in Port St. Lucie. Chris is in St. Petersburg. I am in the great state of Texas. It's like 600 degrees right now, but we're hanging on. I even checked to see what the temperature was down in Jamaica, and we got them by like a good 25 degrees. So I'm happy to take any type of cool air that we can get our hands on. So the AC is on blast.
So we've got people in Lagos, Nigeria, and Houston. So this is fantastic. So let's get to the first few questions we have. I think the first one is from Flying Kites, and then we've got someone on LinkedIn that's asking next. So bring us your questions so we can help you. Flying Kites, hey team, can you talk about which role might be more suited for an introvert, cloud engineer or cloud architect? Well, it's a great question, Flying Kites. I'm going to let you know it's not as much of a secret as it used to be. I'm an introvert. That's right. When I go to a party, if I have a choice, I sit in the corner with a good friend and talk. One person, I'm an introvert. But I've been an architect now for 25 years, and I had to learn how to not be an introvert. The real key is, Flying Kites, what would you really like to do? So if your goal is designing a solution, if your goal is improving business performance, if you want to communicate with others, you want to be an architect. If you want to stare at a computer screen all day and code and configure things, then engineering might be interesting to you. But let's really think about this and dissect it a little bit. And let's also look at the future, and let's also look at where you live. From a career perspective, there are about 1,000,001 more opportunities as an architect than an engineer in the future. And here's the reason why. Much of what engineers do, the coding, configuring, and sitting behind a desk, can be done by AI. So, we've already got big employers like IBM laying engineers and replacing them with AI. We've got other big tech companies doing the same thing. So if you're going to be a cloud engineer, and that's totally okay, Flying Kites, I need you to get out of your comfort zone and start talking to people, just like an architect. And what I mean by this is the engineers that code and configure and sit behind a desk all day, 1 out of 10 of them will probably still be employed 5 to 7 years from now, and the remainder will be laid off in the unemployment line. Now, I love engineers. And why do I love engineers so much? Because I go meet with a client as an architect. I ask them about their business goals, their pain points, their challenges, their future strategy. I help them design a technology blueprint. And then the engineers take this beautiful PowerPoint document and Word document and Visio diagrams or whatever, and they bring it to life. So engineers are amazing. The engineers also help architects as well. But keep it in the back of your mind that engineering not only is low pay compared to the architect world, but there's an extremely limited future. So Flying Kites, if you want to be a cloud engineer, here's what I want you to do. Be the best cloud engineer. Don't get 10 certifications. If you do, all you're learning is 10 different intro-level things that are not going to help you. Get maybe 2 certifications or 3 certifications. Professional or expert only. Don't waste your time on associate certifications because nobody cares, especially hiring managers. And then I want you to become great. I want you to master those networking things, master those cloud things, master those data center things if you want to be an engineer. But next, I want you to build your presentation skills, your sales skills, your executive communication skills, your leadership skills. Introvert or not, I want you to do it anyway. And here's the reason. Here's the reason. If you don't, you'll be part of the engineers that are going to be laid off. And if you do, you become what's called a distinguished architect, and a distinguished engineer. And those distinguished engineers are still $250,000 plus positions. And why are they? Because they're the engineers that can communicate to the executives that make the decisions. They're the people that can improve business performance. So it's that. Now, if you want to be an architect, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to get comfortable speaking in front of people more than you would be as a distinguished engineer, but not much. Because, I worked as a principal/distinguished engineer early in my career for a couple of months. And I was still giving presentations every single day. And here's the reason why. Once you become really good, nobody's going to pay you to actually do the work. They want to make you go out there to shape the industry, to create white papers, to create better and better engineers. So no matter what you do, if you want to advance, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. So flying kites, I'm going to give it to you this way. If you want to find a way to improve business performance, if you want to find a way to do system design, and if you want to be a leader, you want to be an architect because it's got a much bigger upside, much bigger future, and a much higher pay. If you like sitting behind a desk and you love coding and you love configuring, then you want to be an engineer. We need both. One role is not better than the other, but understand they're different. A pharmacist gets a PhD, a doctorate. A nurse practitioner gets a doctorate, and a physician gets a doctorate. But the physician gets the highest pay. The physician gets the most respect, even though they all have doctorates. So understand, as an architect, you have much more upside, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. Do what you love. So I ask you, what do you love? You tell me what you love, and then I'll help you build the best path. I want you to be happy, because you can't, this work-life balance nonsense that people talk about doesn't really work. And here's why. If you work 8 hours a day and you're miserable all 8 hours, I don't care if you have a week's vacation in between work days, you're still going to be miserable. Because you're going to be thinking, oh my God, next Monday I got to go back to work and I hate it. But if you love what you do, you won't work. I practiced internal medicine. It was my first career. I liked it. I moved into tech and I've never worked a day in my life. So you can do either, but do what's going to make you happy. Jim Rose, great question. Which should you start with? James, search are the last place I begin.
Right.
I first want to figure out what is your destination. So James Rose, if you went to an airport, you wouldn't just jump on a plane. Which plane should I get on first? You determine what is your destination. I want to go to Montego Bay, Jamaica. I'm going to go jump on a plane and go to Jamaica. Jamaica is a really great place. I love it. I spend a lot of time there. But if I wanted to go to Dubai, I would jump on, and I'd probably go from Palm Beach to London, or I say Miami to London, London to Dubai. Probably jump on Emirates Airlines because it's the best airline ever. But I need to know. So James Rose, I want to make it clear to you. There is no certification in the entire world that's ever going to get you a job. Zero. All certifications, including the Cisco Certified Internet Expert, and I know frequently because I was one of the original ones, and my number is 7417, are all entry level. Even that, the CCIE, which took me $40,000 to actually attain, and took me 6 months to do so, which is the hardest certification in the world, that was the beginning of my learning. After I passed that, that's when I began. Now, James, since you can't get hired by certifications alone, but you can get hired by knowledge, I want you to tell me what career you desire, and then we can tell you the knowledge you need to get, and then we can cap it off with certifications. See, you can view certifications as the wrapping paper on a wonderful gift. James, you are the gift. You and whatever skills, knowledge, communication skills you have, leadership skills, you are the gift. And granted, let's say it was my anniversary, it was my 27th anniversary, and I wanted to give my wife something nice. If I bought her diamond earrings and I gave them to her, she'd love it. If I put it in a box with wrapping paper, she might love it 5% more, but she'd be happy either way. Now, if I can't bought a beautiful box from Tiffany's, just a box, and beautiful wrapping paper, and she opened that wrapping paper and saw nothing in the box, I would go from being loved to being in the doghouse. My wife would be angry at me, and she'd say, you sent me an empty gift. That would not work out well. As a hiring manager perspective, I've interviewed thousands of certified people that don't have the skills. They're like that empty box with wrapping paper. So James, what career do you desire? You tell me the career you desire, then we'll tell you the skills and get there. And why are certifications always the last thing? Here's the reason why. You can take a student of mine like Delroy Batt. He used to work on ambulances as an EMT. He came to us, and with no certifications, we got him a cloud security architect job. And that's the key. He had no experience, and he still got his cloud security architect job because he had the right skills. I've got thousands of people that come to me with 10 certifications, and honestly, we still have to teach them how to do the job before the certifications even mean anything. So tell me the job you want, then we'll tell you the skills that you need. You desire an architect position. Okay, James, great. So here, I'm going to give you a little guidance now. I want you to join us tonight on the free webinar. We're going to go over everything. The first thing to remember, James, is the architect improves business performance. Now, what does this mean? We start with the client to determine what their future architecture vision is. What's their goal? How do they want the business to operate in the future? And then, James, what we do, because it's nothing like a certification, is we then evaluate their business. How does their business run today? And we document what's called their business architecture, which is how their business runs. The next thing we need to do is work with the client to figure out how we want their business to operate in the future. And then we do a gap analysis between the current business state and the future business state. Those are the changes we need to make. After we do that, then we've got to start looking at their data architecture. What data do they have? Who needs to receive the data? How does it work? And we document their current data architecture. Beyond that, what do we got to do? Next thing we got to do is figure out what the future data architecture is based upon the architecture vision and the business vision. Do a gap analysis and document that. Now, James, we've got to go look at their technology architecture. What kind of tech do they have now? What's working? What's not working? What's got constraints? Which doesn't have constraints? Document that. Then we have to design the future technology architecture, which is going to be based upon the business architecture and the architecture vision. Poof. Now we're done that, we need to think about who's going to govern this thing and which kind of, and the people they have. Do they have the people that are right for the job? If not, do they want to outsource it to an outsourcer like a Deloitte or an Accenture? Do they need to hire the people? Who's going to govern them? How are architectural decisions going to be made? And we have to do that. And then, James, now we're in a position to actually design the technology architecture after we know all these things. And it's going to be inclusive of network and data center things, whether it's cloud or not. Why? Because the cloud is just somebody else's network and data center. So we're going to need to understand the networking, the routing, the switching, the routing protocols. We're going to need to understand the computing platform, whether they be virtual machines or containers, the storage area networks where the information is stored, what types of business applications they use, whether they be CRP systems, ERP systems, CRM systems, unified communications, and then we need to evaluate their security. And then we design it. So the first thing is to learn the network and the data center and the business things. Now I'm going to tell you, James, it's not an architect is not a hands-on techie job. It's a job where you design the solution, you present the solution, and you sell it back to the customer. So that's what the reason we're successful in getting people with no architect background hired every single day is we teach them how to sell, we teach them business acumen, we teach them leadership skills, we teach the emotional intelligence and the CXO relevancy. You get that, plus learn the design skills, and you'll be great. Now, once you develop those skills, James, what certification should you get? Great question. You should get one cloud certification, like the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional. Just one. You don't want multiple, you want one. It would be helpful if you had a network and a data center certification, such as a CCNP, because remember, somebody else's network and data center. It wouldn't hurt if you had a TOGAF certification, and TOGAF is an enterprise architecture certification. It doesn't teach anything about how to be an architect, but it is a wonderful certification because it teaches the architecture process. Where to start, it talks about the stakeholder management, it talks about the leadership, it talks about everything. And those are 3 really rock solid certifications. Now, don't get more than 3 certifications. In fact, when I see more than 3 certifications, I won't even interview the person. And here's the reason why. All certifications are junior level skills, and there's no architect certifications out there. They're all related to engineering or administration. So when somebody wants to be an architect, which is a designer, and they come with me with a SysOps, which is a maintenance service, or a developer certification, or a DevOps certification, they're learning other people's jobs. Now, I don't want to hire somebody that's learning other people's jobs. I want to hire somebody that's good at their job. So that's the process. So James, please join us tonight. We will go over the entire architect, and we'll talk about everything from BGP to VLANs, everything you need to know. So you'll be ready to get hired. And I look forward to the day you get hired, and then send me a message that says I'm hired, because I'll celebrate it whether you're our student or not, although we'll get you there better, faster, and cheaper than anybody else. But no matter what, as long as you're hired, I will be thrilled.
For Mario, I'm a total beginner. What search do you suggest I go for? My interests are becoming a cloud architect.
Mario, same as the last person, the certifications are the last thing that you do.
The last.
You want to become a cloud architect, you need to learn the network and the data center. And you need to build the leadership, business acumen, sales skills, communication skills, executive presence, not certifications. You need to learn how to be an architect and how to design, and then get certifications. Now, these are three, honestly, they're really all intro-level certifications: the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, perhaps a CCNP, and a TOGAF. They'd be the certifications, but I really caution you. I'm going to tell you right now, I've interviewed about 5,000 AWS certified people, and none of them were employable. Zero. I've interviewed people with 10 certifications, and none of them employable. And here's why. In a certification, they're going to teach you a name of an AWS service, such as AWS DynamoDB, and they'll even teach you how to configure it. But architects don't configure anything, they design. Now, Mario, 98% of all organizations are multi-cloud, 98%. And the things they teach you in the certification prohibit multi-cloud from either working. So the reality is there's nothing in a certification that's going to build your career. But it is a wonderful, wonderful way to shine you up. Let's say you had 2 Mercedes, brand new. I like the GLE 350. I have one. It's a good car. I bought it for the seats, but it's really great. I bought the diesel thing. It gets like 35 miles a gallon for a 4,500-pound vehicle. It's really kind of cool. Let's say I had 2 of them and they're brand new. I've got one with scuffed up paint and one with polish and a good paint job. That one's going to sell for more. But anybody would be lucky to get either one of these brand new with good paint or bad paint, because it's a great car. So the key is you want to be like that Mercedes. Everything is good and rock solid and strong. And then the certifications are the fancy paint job. So they become the last things you do. But they're going to be good certifications for you to get.
For Murthy, what are the prerequisites for becoming a cloud solution architect?
Well, there's no prerequisites, but you've got to have the right skills. Noah Parker was a social worker student of ours, got hired as a cloud architect. Pierre Dassault was working on sailboats. He's now a cloud architect. Ivan Tambo was a waiter. He was a college student. He's now working for AWS as a cloud architect. Balwinder was a stay-at-home mom. She's now working at Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. Coyote was a college student, no tech background whatsoever, working at AWS as a solution architect after our training. Jordan Kitko was another fine college student hired by AWS as a solution architect after our training, and not a junior level associate architect, a real architect. And at the same time, Vladimir was 24 years old. He got hired straight out of our program. Al Legister got hired by Deloitte as a senior solution architect. His last job was selling for Kimberly-Clark in the consumer product things like tissues, for example. And let's say Jennifer Ema was a mental health tech, now working for JP Morgan Chase. Wallace Agana was a sales rep, now working as an enterprise architect for JP Morgan Chase. Daniel Boso, I love this kid. He wished he was my own son. I like him so much. 20-year-old Fireball came to us. He had taken some $35,000 boot camp, which taught him absolutely nothing. So we completely retrained him, got him hired by JP Morgan Chase as a cloud architect. Now, what skills do you need to know? That's the big difference. We must remember that an architect and an engineer are completely opposite people. And that's why when I've got cloud engineers with 15 years experience, I'm retraining them the same way as when I've got a waiter. And either one of them take about the same time to get hired. The prerequisites are business acumen. Why? The job of the architect is to improve their customer's business performance. And if you don't know business, you can't improve their business performance. Leadership skills. Why? You're going to be leading large teams of engineers. Emotional intelligence. Why? You're going to be leading things. Executive presence. Here, watch. Hi, Alonzo. I'm a cloud architect, and I'm going to talk to you today about BGP. BGP is a path vector routing protocol that's used for interdomain routing. He's already sleeping. He's just laughing because he knows me. Now, if I had said, Alonzo, let's talk about how we can improve your business. We're going to talk about BGP, and I know we have to get a little geeky here, but here's the key. You're going to connect to the cloud provider and they're an external domain, and therefore we must use an exterior routing protocol. Now he's interested and he's going to pay attention, so you must have that. Now, Alonzo is a chief marketing officer, but he's just the CEO. Hey, Alonzo, let's talk about the LSAs and OSPF. We've got the type 1 LSAs that are generated by, look at his eyes. He's already zoned out. So you need to have what's called CXO relevancy. When you're talking to the CEO, and we talk to the CEO every day, you need to know what the CEO cares about and what vision or time horizon they're focused on. By comparison, when you're talking to an engineer, they're probably not looking at EBITDA and top line revenue and operational expenses. So they're going to care about something else. You know, as architects, we focus predominantly on the leaders. Why the leaders? And we let the engineers deal with the techies. The leaders are the people that have the purchasing ability to say, yes, I want to buy your stuff. The engineers can like it or dislike it, but they don't make purchasing decisions. So as architects, we've got to be relevant to those executives. We've got to understand their business needs, and that takes communication skills. Then we've got to design a solution back to the customer. Now, when we design the solution back to the customer, let's say it's $1 billion solution. I've worked on a lot of $1 billion architecture. Hey, Alonzo, would you like to spend $1 billion?
No.
So that's the key. The second you try to design an architecture and sell it, nobody wants it because it's expense. You got to prove to Alonzo, we've evaluated your business. After evaluation, we have an architecture that we think can shave $2 billion of employee costs by leveraging artificial intelligence to improve efficiency. At the same time, we believe we can get rid of some communication errors in your sales process, which can yield another $2 billion. Are you interested? The solution's $1 billion.
Yeah, over time, that will be paying for itself. But yeah, we're definitely interested, Mike.
So you've got to prove the business case for it. So you've got to have that business acumen. Now, if you've got the ability to build a team, because in every architecture, Murthy, we're not designing it ourselves. In Africa, they've got a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we have to build a team of people that don't work for us, lead the team, document it, and then go sell it back to the customer. Now, the last thing that I haven't shown you is as architects, we've got to help negotiate the deal. So Alonzo, if he's the CEO and we may go back through 6 months of negotiations for this. Now, once Alonzo says, yes, Mike, I want this, guess what? I say yes, we shake hands, contracts are signed, and I go to the next client, and a service delivery executive will come in, a project or program manager will come in, and they'll bring in cloud engineers and DevOps engineers and Linux engineers and security engineers, and they're going to go build it. Architects don't touch the technology. And if they do, they're not working as architects. They're working as engineers, regardless of their title. And they'll be paid as engineers too. Those are the skills. And Murthy, it's the best job in the world. I can't tell you how wonderful it is.
From Ice Cream. Hi, I'm exploring distributed systems because during my data science internship, we are facing issues with worker nodes and queues, etc. Are cloud architects responsible for this, or is it a separate role?
Ice Cream, we design, present, and sell. Mm-hmm. We don't do any data science whatsoever. We might examine, if you're dealing with the Kubernetes architecture, what's going on with your worker nodes. Do you have enough instances of your worker nodes? Do they have enough memory? But we're not going to touch any of that stuff. Most people think architecture is this highly technical job. And then they get it. And then they go, whoa, what do you mean? I spend 50% of my time going to meetings, 25% of my time buying lunches and dinners and drinks and entertaining clients, and the rest of my time giving presentations. That's it. We don't touch the tech. I mean, that's not true. We do write Microsoft Word documents. We create a lot of PowerPoint presentations. We do a lot of work in Microsoft Excel. And when you're junior as an architect, you draw your own pictures with a drawing program like Lucidchart, Draw.io, or Visio. Ice Cream, as you advance in your architecture career, what you do is you take a picture on a napkin and you send it to a graphics professional. And then they'll make these things in Adobe InDesign and they'll send them out in your proposals. I got lots of experience in my youth drawing things in Visio on my Red Hat Linux workstation where I had to run VMware to run Windows just so I could run Visio. And the Mac made that a whole lot better. But when the systems got better, I actually had Word and things like that. But no, the architects don't touch the tech. So this has nothing to do with anything related to data science at all. Data science is a hands-on techie job. The architect job is an executive job, meaning you're going to be designing, presenting, selling, going to meetings, and these kinds of things. Totally different world.
From Cliff, I joined the Cloud Architect Career Development Program last week. Welcome, Cliff. I have a background in cybersecurity. Would a cloud architect that knows security fare better than a cloud security architect opportunities-wise?
Well, Cliff, here's the thing. You can't be a cloud architect if you don't know security. You can't design any cloud architecture with AWS, WAF, and Shield and think you're not going to get hacked and actually have a customer buy from you. You're going to have to understand enterprise security. So it's a fundamental prerequisite of security. Now, the reality is, if you want to look better opportunity-wise, the secret is this. Don't get too close to the tech and focus on the business. You've got a lot of ways you can advance in your cloud architect career. You could be a cloud security architect, for example. And that would be better than a generic cloud architect in terms of pay, because now you're dealing with a specialty. You could be an industry expert like me. I used to practice internal medicine, right? Prior to that, I was a nurse. I designed systems for healthcare solutions. I knew the industry. I had a ton of industry acumen, business acumen, and it was a great job for me. Or you can focus on knowing the business and being an expert in business and not the tech. Now, Cliff, I'm going to show you some statistics that are going to blow your mind. The farther away you are from the tech, the closer you are to the transformation, the more you will earn. And not just a little, but a lot. So the average cloud architect earns about $218,000 a year. That's average. Now, if you go to salary.com and you look up the average salary of people with business acumen, you'll find it's a little over $558,000 a year. So opportunities-wise, what do you want to be? The business expert that's an architect that's an expert in improving your customer's business, or the techie that loves the tech that's focused on the tech, earning $140,000 a year. And if people don't believe me because they focus on getting 40 and 50 certifications, and they're like, I got 1 million certifications, why am I earning 180? And I say, stop the certification madness, focus on your business acumen, learn how to make your clients successful. And here's something simple. Now, I was a principal architect in less than 2 years, less than 2. And you can too, with the right training. So here's a principal architect salary at Microsoft, $379 on average, with a range of $300 to $495. Now, note there's $200,000 difference. And what determines that range, the 300 versus the 500? Your business acumen, your leadership skills, your executive presence, and your ability to sell. Because remember, as architects, we get commissions on what we sell. Let's look at Microsoft or AWS. 291 to 491 is the range. Average salary of a principal architect, which I did in less than 2 years, is 372. Again, it's relatively good. Now, Google pays a little more. Their average principal architect salary is 508. This is just a printout from Glassdoor. I think it changed a little bit this week, was down a little bit, but it's the same kind of concept, with a range of 394 to 677. But here's where it gets interesting. Most architects are director level people. And a principal architect in some organizations is a senior director. Many architects like me became architects for a few decades and then moved into the people management world. Well, here you go. There's a senior director salary at Cisco, averages 527, with a range of 417 to 689. And it's not just Cisco. Let's pick another tech company that I like. I think I have something from Palo Alto. I've got some Accentures that are 385 plus. But let's look at Palo Alto, because that's another good tech company. There's some tech companies I just like. Here you can see the average senior director salary is 540, with a range of 425 to 709. So when it comes to managing your career and looking for opportunities, the better you are at transforming your customer's business, the more opportunities you're going to have. Remember, the job of the architect is not to be a techie. It's what the tech can do for somebody. I'll give you an example, and then we'll move to the next question. Here we've got an iPhone, and it's got a photo of my beautiful cat, City. Isn't she cute? Love my cat. I missed her terribly when I was on vacation. I couldn't bring her with me. Right now, this is an iPhone. I think it's a 12 Plus Mac Pro Max. I have no idea. I have a 14 that I use as my camera, and I keep and my backup phone, and I keep this with me as the primary one. Got to trade it in. But right now, this is a $1,200 phone. Now let's take the same phone. Let's pop John Chambers' phone number in it, Andy Jassy's phone number in it, Bill Gross from PIMCO at it, Muhammad El Arian in it, Jack Ma. Now this phone's worth $500,000 because it's got contacts to all these influential CEOs. So the key is, Cliff, you joined our program last week. Congratulations. Wait till you see what happens in your future as long as you do the work. Realize opportunity-wise, the better your business skills, the greater your opportunity. The closer you are to the tech, the less opportunity you will have. So now you know.
From Jarrell, I am a technical account manager, non-cloud. I have the Associate AWS Architect certification from a year ago. What else do I need to become an architect?
Well, technical account manager, where and what? And the reason I say this is a technical account manager is either a techie manager or an account manager, which is basically a sales exec. So I don't know what you're saying because it's non-cloud as a technical account manager. The AWS Architect certification is a completely meaningless certification. That doesn't mean you can't be great, because if you're in sales, you have a lot of the skills already necessary to be an architect, but zero of those skills are covered in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. Why? All that does is teach you the name of a service and how to configure it. But guess what? Architects don't configure the services, and watch this. I got my CEO, Alonzo. Hey, Alonzo, I got some EC2 instances with some EBS volumes, some S3 buckets, some WAF, some Shield, some really cool cloud-managed database called DynamoDB. He's going to laugh me out of the office. He really would. He'd call security, they'd escort me out, and I'd be fired from my job the first second I even said that to a client. Now, Jarrell, if I went into Alonzo's office in a meeting and I said, Alonzo, thank you for the opportunity to consult in your business. I said, Alonzo, could you tell me about your business goals, pain points, and business challenges? And he tells me. Can you tell me what kind of technologies you're leveraging? I don't know, go talk to my chief information officer. I'd be happy to. What's working in your organization? What's not working in your organization? What are you looking to go? And then I meet with the chief information officer, and I get these things. And I say, I get it. Your web servers are constantly overloaded. You can't seem to predict them. You know, Mr. CIO, that seems like a really good opportunity to the public cloud. We use 2 public cloud providers. We like it for the agility the cloud can scale in and scale out as necessary. Now, Alonzo, you told me about your mission critical data application. You said that a nanosecond of performance can equal another $50 million a year in revenue. We can't move that to the cloud because by going to the cloud, we're going to have 2 to 3 milliseconds of latency just to get there. And on the cloud, we can't really do high performance computing or high performance storage because it's just not available to us. I recommend you do that in your data center. Now, Alonzo, I noticed you collected and aggregated all this information over the years, but you just told me that you're unpredictable with regards to your sales volume request. You can't seem to get your supply chain right. You don't know what kind of inventory management. We can leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to better predict customer demand so you know what product to produce, can better understand customer sentiment. Now he's into everything that I have to say. And now he likes me, and now he will deal with all of those kinds of things. And now I've got a successful architect job. He's got someone that's pretty great, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So these are the kind of things that we're talking about as an architect. And it says you deal with money, running meetings, identify solutions to issues, talk with decision makers. That's a lot of what we're doing right now. In some cases, in most cases, the architect should be a little more polished than the technical account manager, more like the global account manager or the account executive if you really want to reach the high levels. But you're kind of in those environments, and it's good.
From Ash K, I am also, he's a student taking the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Is AI widely used by large enterprises? As a cloud architect, to what depth should we know AI to be able to design better solutions?
Well, ask Kate, at this point, any business that's not using AI will find themselves dead and replaced by a business that is using AI. So we will be integrating artificial intelligence in every design we create. In fact, that's one of the reasons we stopped selling our cloud engineering program, is we knew the AI was coming. And we knew with AI, many of the engineering careers were going to go by the wayside because AI can do the engineer's job, but never the architect's job. Because the architect is so consulting oriented, per people oriented, and leadership oriented, and soft skill oriented. You must know AI. And that means understanding what you can do with AI. Now, we're not data scientists. We're not machine learning engineers, but we have to be able to design the solutions. So Ashkay, if you actually participated in the AI project that we gave our students recently, you would have basically got the idea of the level. What is the business problem to be solved, Ashkay? Can't find any software developers. My software developers are expensive and not working. Okay, we need generative AI. Now, we're an airline, and we're trying to buy fuel contracts. We need some machine learning to figure out, predictive analytics to determine when's the best time to buy based upon market forces, for example. We're an organization that has 3 petabytes of data over the last 10 years. Well, how can we leverage that data in order to make better predictions, better sales forecasts, for example, produce products that our customers are more likely to understand? We ran a video conference and it had 500 people in the video conference, and we gave a test presentation. Can we use artificial intelligence to look at the sentiment of the audience by their facial expressions to see if they liked what we had to say, to determine if it's a good presentation or a bad presentation? That's the reality of our new world. It's going to be there. Which people can be replaced by technology? Let's face it, as an architect, I worked with IBM to do strategic outsourcing at one point in my career. You know what that meant? Figuring out what other companies could do better, faster, and cheaper than the companies themselves. Same thing for architects. We run into organizations and our job is going to be to improve their business performance, and we're darn good at it. And it's a great, great job. So nobody's going to ask you to code. Nobody's going to ask you to learn Python or R, because we're not data scientists. There's going to be machine learning engineers and data scientists that are going to write and build this stuff for us. Remember, we're systems designer. How do we design it? How do we present it? How do we negotiate it? How do we sell it? How do we document it? How do we write a white paper to make the whole industry excited about what AI is going to do for their business? So Ashkay, for example, I must have been in 20 magazine articles recently. I think Forbes is one of them. We're talking about AI as well. That's what we're going to do as architects. You're going to talk to the press. You're going to be interviewed on camera. You're going to be presenting at conferences. You're not going to be touching the technology. Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, the next thing to remember, Ashkay, is in every architecture, you can't know everything. You can't. I've got 25 years of BGP experience and a high availability system design. If it comes to data, I'm going to bring in a data architect every single time, like my friend Praveen, who we trained from data architect to cloud architect in JP Morgan Chase, and he loves it. I might even bring in a data scientist for some of these things. I'm going to bring in some machine learning operations people to make sure whatever we design, they can actually maintain after the fact, that it's not going to be crazy. Remember, architect design, not build. So we're never going to get that techie, because if we try to, we're going to not be focusing on the business. You got to focus on the biggest, most high value target, which is improving our customers' business performance. Tyrone, I think we can go to the next one.
From Augustine, which TOGAF certification do you recommend, and is AWS Solutions Architect I guess they're asking which AWS Architect certificate will be sufficient to be successful in the cloud as a complement, not as a supplement.
So as a complement, I don't waste my time on associate certifications. I only do professional certifications. So either the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the AWS Solutions Architect Professional, one of the two. Doesn't matter. There's going to be nothing in that certification that's going to be meaningful to you. Nothing. There's a TOGAF architecture certification. As for the ADM, it's a 9.2. I forget what they actually call it. I'm not a big certification person, but I think it's a very helpful thing for you to know. And keep that in the back of your mind. Alonzo, if you can, or one of us, let me go to the TOGAF page so I can, bear with me so I can pull it up. certifications for me are always the last thing. And the reason they're always the last thing is people come to me with hundreds of certifications and I can never hire them. The people that have one certification or two certifications, but they have real depth, those folks are absolutely fantastic. So, which one would I look for? I would look at I like the TOGAF Enterprise Architecture Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I like the TOGAF Business Architecture Foundation. So it's the Enterprise Architecture Practitioner, as well as the Business Architecture Foundation that I actually think are good. But remember, certifications are wrapping paper. They're the polish. They're not the skills. You're going to learn no skills in a certification whatsoever. It's just wrapping paper on the gift.
And you know what, Mike? I think this will be a good time for people to understand that the industry has really emphasized, and I honestly overemphasize, the value of certifications and how they're going to be the golden ticket to get you an offer letter, which is not the case.
No.
Look at it from a pyramid type, and I'm going to illustrate this and have a conversation about this later, but look at it from this. You need a foundation, okay, before you start honing in on any specific skill set. Unfortunately, the certifications inverted that that diagram so that they focused on the specific skill set. And unfortunately, once you start realizing that you're not getting hired based off and predicated off of these certifications, you start to understand with the expanse of knowledge that there's far more going on than just that certification. A certification is a flagpole, basically, for you, for saying that you have been able to pass an exam. But it does not help you to architect. It just helps you to understand those services within that specific cloud service provider, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform. So it's just very important for everyone to understand, to get the fundamentals first. And once you understand that, then you'll realize that just like any airline pilot, if you have a specific commercial airline that you know how to fly, whether it be for Delta, United Arab Emirates, any of these airlines, you can still fly that specific one instead of focusing on this one cloud service provider who you're going to realize you're not able to use any of these in other environments. So it's just, please understand the fundamentals and the rest of it will come into place. From LinkedIn user, enterprise architect versus cloud architect, which path to start down first?
LinkedIn user, I don't know your background. The reality is it's nothing to get you your first cloud architect job without having any tech experience. It's nothing to do so. And I can give you probably 100 examples of students we've done it for. It's very challenging to get an enterprise architect job as your first. So it kind of depends on who you are and what your background is. If you have an MBA, it's going to be pretty easy to get you an enterprise architecture job, because the enterprise architect is really an MBA management consultant that knows a little tech. The cloud architect, again, the reason it's so easy to get someone hired without background, and I've given you a ton of examples earlier today, if you were part of this presentation, is as follows. It's near impossible to get anybody that knows system design, that also has business acumen, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence. I can find a person with 50 certifications in a minute that knows absolutely zero. And the more certifications someone has, generally speaking, the less competency they actually have. Because the certification is basically a vendor trying to get you excited about selling their stuff, not actually learning how it works. So it depends on what you want to do. I personally am happier in the enterprise architect role. I've done them all. Why do I love the enterprise architect job? Well, it's more business, it's more leadership, and it's more executive. So for me, I prefer that. Now, to be fair, I have 2 master's degrees. One's in business, and I have about $100,000 of business executive and leadership training after the MBA. And when I got my first enterprise architect job, it was a 6-figure raise of the previous technical architect job that I had. And then I got another raise that was bigger than that, and my career did this. But I had a cloud architect 2 weeks ago that got a $404,000 job straight out of our program. Now, he did have a tech background. We took him from an engineer to an architect. But his big jump was building the business acumen, the leadership, executive presence, communication skills, sales skills, etc. And it was the thing that took him from that hardcore engineer to that amazing architect. So the key is either one, but what do you like? I personally prefer, for me, the enterprise architect job. Why? Because I'm doing everything here. I'm focusing on the business architecture. I'm focusing on the tech piece. I'm focusing on the artificial intelligence, the cloud stuff, the network stuff. I'm focusing on it all. And I'd rather take this bird's eye airplane level view looking down at the earth saying, oh, this looks cool from a very high level. As the cloud architect, I'm focusing much more on the actual cloud things itself, the network of the data center and the cloud. And that's totally fine. You're going to have more opportunity long-term as an enterprise architect than a cloud architect. Now, our cloud architect training is really biased on enterprise architecture. All of our cloud architects get a lot of enterprise architect training inside of the cloud architect program. Not exactly as much as I would give it on, say, on an enterprise architect course, but they get a lot of it. And the reason all of our architects get so much of this is I want to make sure they maximize their salary, they maximize their opportunity, and they don't get bogged down on thinking like an engineer. I want them thinking like an enterprise architect, because that's where the most of the career is. Both are good. Which do you enjoy more? But if you've never been in tech before, I suggest the cloud architect as the first job and move into the enterprise architect. If you're a person with an MBA already, then that enterprise architect looks pretty great. But these are great careers, and you'll be happy either way.
From Joe, hey, Alonzo, I'm in Houston. Are you offering mentorship? Well, Joe, one of the things about the Cloud Architect Career Development Program is that you're going to learn a lot from where we are right now. Now, if you want one-to-one mentorship, then that's going to be a part of the elite package that we have. But you're going to have a lot of exposure with a lot of our students, a lot of exposure with a lot of our staff, including Mike, Chris, and myself. So you're going to have a lot of close-up opportunities for us to be able to give you what you need, focus on the career that you're looking for, and be able to answer questions as well within the Slack community. So you're going to have access there. But I'm also looking forward to meeting you, because once the weather gets a little bearable and it's not on pre-bake oven temperatures, everyone in the overall Houston community will be meeting with me for our second annual meetup, where all cloud architect, anybody from Go Cloud Careers as a student, or our clients, we're going to be meeting together, having fun, having dinner as well. So if you're going to be a part of us, we'd love to have you, and you'll have an opportunity to meet me in person there. From LinkedIn user, how many enterprise architects are needed in mid-sized businesses?
You have to tell me what you mean by mid-sized business.
Yeah,
because everybody's definition of a mid-sized business. Are you talking about a $20 billion a year mid-sized business versus a $100 million a year large business? Are you talking about a $1 million a year that you qualify as a mid-sized business? I need to know what you mean by mid-sized business, because that's it's a generic term. We need to be very specific on what we're talking about.
Then we're thinking about the architectural designs. Are they national, international? I mean, the list goes on and on.
And it totally changes. If you're in a company like Cisco, there's 1,500, 2,000 architects that work there, maybe even 3,000. If you're in a company like Microsoft, there's probably 25,000 architects that are there. If you're in a company, you said 600 employees, that's generally considered a small business. A small business like that might only need one enterprise architect, but it's a small business. It's 600 employees. Now, if they're doing $1 billion in sales, they probably might need half a dozen of them, because they're a bit, or maybe even 15 of them, because they're dealing with a lot of tech, and it's a tech-driven business. They're also going to have network architects and machine learning or artificial intelligence architects. They're going to have security architects, big data architects, and a whole IAM architects, and many more.
Then you think about the networking too, Mike. If they're doing a lot of sales like that, then making sure this the networking has to be prime.
Oh, yeah. And it also depends on how they run their business. Yeah. For example, it's going to be substantially cheaper to go off the cloud and do it in the data center for 90% of the organizations. And we're not talking like a little cheaper. We're talking like a lot cheaper. Now, having said all of that, if they build it in their own data center and they're designing their own clouds, then they're going to need many more architects because now they're managing the complexity. If they're outsourcing it to like an AWS and an Azure or 2 or 3 clouds, because nobody uses a single cloud anymore, now they might only need 15 or 20 architects. But it all depends on the business. What's their business? Are they a post-sales business, pre-sales business? Who do they consult to? Cisco would have a tremendous number of enterprise architects. So would IBM. So would Deloitte and Accenture because they consult to other companies. Deloitte might have 25,000 architects. So it all depends on what the company's business is. But I can tell you this, the more architects in the business, the more the technology is strategic to the business. Generally speaking, the more money the business makes with less expenses. So architecture is a growing field, and it's growing, and growing. Engineering jobs are going away and withering away. And I want you to think about it this way. The more and more tech opportunities, oh, we got this AI thing. Well, we got this big hacking thing we've got to worry about now. We've got this. Now we're in something different. You said healthcare business. Now, healthcare is not going to have anywhere near the technology professionals they need. Healthcare is the most grossly underfunded business in the world. It is the most labor-intensive business you can possibly think of. And it's also extraordinarily regulated. You must have one nurse per this many patients, one pharmacist per pharmacy. The reality is they're trying to change the laws because most of the pharmacist's job doesn't even need to occur anymore. The pharmacist's job is not to take something from a big bottle and put it into a little bottle and bill insurance. The pharmacist's job is to make sure when I prescribe a medication that I didn't cause a problem or a risk. And the pharmacist's job is to call me back and say, Mike, did you really mean to prescribe that? Are you sure? They're getting this from this doctor and this from this doctor. There's a conflict. Do you want to do this? A yes or no? So we hire them for their judgment. A lot of that stuff is being done by AI. Same thing with radiologists. Radiologists, there was a shortage. Scan them. How about medical transcriptions? You know how much transcription I've done in my life? I get on there. I got on my dictaphone. Hi, this is Mike Gibbs. I'm talking about seeing Alonzo today. Alonzo Coleman presented in my office. He's a well-nourished 53-year-old male. Alonzo presented with complaints of allergic rhinitis. Upon examination, Alonzo has some nasal congestion. He has pain on palpation of the frontal ethmoid and sphenoid sinuses. Recommended plan, Nasonex spray, 2 sprays per nostril, QD. Alonzo, you allergic to penicillin? Okay. Amoxicillin, 850, augment 850 milligrams BID, and Mucinex, guaifenesin, 1,200 milligrams BID. Thank you for the opportunity to consult on this patient today. And then it gets transcribed by a human. Now, that can go to Dragon, naturally speaking, who's got a beautiful package to do that transcription. There's companies like Otter AI, and of course, Amazon is trying to pretend that they can do medical transcription with their new medical transcription service, and I'm sure they can to a degree. But then again, you've got a company like Dragon that's been doing medical transcription for 30 years now, and that's all they've really done, medical and legal transcription, so they're going to have a really great service. So that's a place where tech, for example, can replace a lot of transcriptionists. And that can make it more efficient. The question is, will the legislation allow it? And that's why healthcare is slower to adopt and move than other organizations.
From Julius, hi Mike, any advice from those who just newly enrolled? I will appreciate it.
Please follow the program. That's my advice. It took 25 years of me, 30 years of Alonzo. It took 15 years of leadership experience from Chris. We've got about 15 and 20 architects that all have 15 to 30 years experience. It took well over $1 million of education and about 500 years of combined experience to create this program. Please follow it in order. The people that are unsuccessful are the ones that are looking at how to skate the program and do it on their own. The people that are successful are like people that read a book. You go to page 1, you go to page 2, you go to page 3. When you get stuck on page 3, you read it again and then you research everything you know. So please, Julius, please follow the program exactly as designed. You watch a video, you don't understand something, go look it up. You're in class, turn on your camera and participate actively in class. Go watch the previous classes, but follow the program in order. That's the advice. You do that, you'll be highly successful. I was on vacation and had a bunch of people that took care of patients. So that got hired. I'm sorry, I'm back in my medical world because I was giving a simulation. I used to practice internal medicine. I still do occasionally to help out some people. That's neither here nor there. I do it as a favor for friends.
Yeah, I can't underscore what Mike said enough. Now, understand, people are paying to be a part of this program. So wouldn't it behoove you to follow the exact directions that we have laid out for you to be successful? Consider it just like a flight. You want to get there from point A to point Z, point A to point B rather, without going through all this other extraneous layovers and everything else. When you don't follow the program, you're adding layovers to your flight. So please follow the directions, because there's no way you're going to get to a specific part of this program without us vetting your competency. And if we find gaps, we're going to ask you, have you followed the program? Did you do your assignments? Are you coming to class? And if you can't come to class because life gets in the way, and that's how we design it in the first place, are you following up with the recordings we lay out for you? And if you're not checking those boxes, then you're delaying your ability to get the job you want at the salary that you can only imagine, and not being able to move forward with these type of opportunities and grow in your career. So I implore everyone, please, whether you're in the program now or you've just started or you've been there for a while, go back to a specific part of that program, start back from jump, review everything so that there are no gaps in your competency so that we can help you get hired. From Ken. Hello, Mike. Just following up on a question from a few days ago that was answered by one of your panelists. And I would also like your opinion on it also. What are your thoughts about Scrum Masters?
I wouldn't even know what one is. I've had no contact with Scrum Masters in the last 25 years. I do know they have something related to project management. I've worked with program managers, but not Scrum people. It's not true. I do know a few people that said they were certified in it. They're like, should I get a certification? No, they're like, I already have one. I'm like, well, don't put it on your resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to be, and I know you're not interested in being a Scrum Master, Ken, but the same thing goes with people who want to be some sort of super ninja engineer / enterprise architect who can code, build, and do all of this in the blink of an eye. There's no such thing as that person. And the same thing with adding Scrum Master capabilities to a cloud architectural role. So it's good to know and understand what it is, because just like you would understand what a cloud engineer does and understand the overall flow of how concept to completion is realized with these architectures, but don't focus on that. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
And let's add something. And this is really important when it comes to optimizing your career, Ken. Let's say you want to be an Olympic gymnast. Let's say it takes Simone Biles. You know, she was the most unbelievable Olympic gymnast I've ever seen in my life. I just love watching her. I promise you, Simone Biles wasn't on the swim team. She wasn't on the track team. She wasn't learning how to be a yoga instructor on the side. She practiced gymnastics. She woke up, she did her gymnastics, she did her strength and conditioning routine for her gymnastics, probably got a daily massage to make sure she wasn't pulling muscles every single day. She had her gymnastics nutrition routine. She probably had some mental focus training. That's all she did was gymnastics. There's this American sport called baseball where somebody throws a ball and somebody hits it. The people that throw the ball are paid a lot of money and they can never hit the ball, and nobody cares because they're hiring a pitcher to pitch, not to hit. When somebody hires an architect, they don't care about your Scrum. They don't care about your programming ability. They care, can you design, present, and sell a solution and drive transformation? When it comes to building the most elite careers, they care how good you are at your career. If you were sick and you went to a doctor, would you care if they were a dog walker or an airplane pilot or a house cleaner, or do you want them to be the best doctor in the world? Keep that in the back of your mind. Focus on the career that you desire and only that and nothing else. It's all a distraction other than your career.
And one thing is that, okay, yeah, I'll focus on, go ahead. Because I can talk all day, so I don't want to delay any questions. Happy belated birthday, Mike. Hello, Alonzo. Good to see you, King Leo. Question, since we have the sale, do we have to use a sales script like other sales jobs, or do we come up with our own sales strategies?
So King Leo, in any real sales job, you will never use a script. The second you use a script as an architect or in any kind of elite sales, you will be escorted out of the room by security, and they will tell everybody that you speak to for the rest of your life never to talk to you again. Now, here's the reason why. Here's a sales script. I'm calling Alonzo. Hey, Alonzo, I got this special pen for you. Are you interested in hearing my pen? He says no. Well, let's talk about this pen. And Alonzo hangs up on me. And that's what happens. And King Leo, if you went to the doctor and they had a script and they treated you the same as every other patient, you'd fire them and get a new doctor. It's a great question, and I'm glad you asked this. Everything we do is going to be customized to the customer. You look at a reference architecture that's designed for bank A, it's not going to work for hospital B. If you deal with an investment bank, they have different needs than a retail bank. And we must customize our questions. So here's the thing. If I ask Alonzo and Alonzo tells me that his issue is top line revenue, everything I need to focus on is increasing his top line revenue. If Alonzo says I have an employee productivity problem, my architecture has to be based on his employee productivity problem. If Alonzo is my client and he says, Mike, I just bought this new company and we need to integrate them into our systems, that's the problem. And because architecture, because we have to start with the vision and then map out the business and then look at the data and then look at the technology and then look at the people that we have that can manage it, every client is 100% different. And because every client we have is 100% different, every sales process will be completely different. It's going to be evaluating their business problems, evaluating how the technology can actually help the problem, and then showing them and building a business case and a return on investment capital model. And then it's going to involve large amounts of negotiation. So because of that, there's no concept of a sales script in any elite sales. Now, if somebody's trying to sell you QuickBooks and you're a small mom and pop business, they've got a sales script. In fact, HubSpot sent me this stupid email with a sales script. And then I said no, so they reached out to Alonzo. And then they tried to schedule a meeting, and I called them back, and I said no, because they tried a sales script. I got 100 sales script messages each day. I delete 100% of every last one of them because they're not focused on my business. They're focused on a script. And when people are spending billions of dollars that they will in tech, they need to know that you're focused on that business. So we will be developing our own sales strategies on every single client. There'll be some sales principles we follow, but it's more about learning how to sell than learning a script. It's a very good question you asked.
Yeah, it's a cookie cutter. I mean, just like architecture, it could be very similar 95% of the time compared to other businesses within the industry, but that other 5% is where you really get into the nitty gritty of what that organization is trying to do within the industry. And it's the same thing here. So when you try to cookie cutter communications, then what if someone within that industry that they're friends with, well, they tried that sales strategy on me. It's the same verbatim word, and they can compare any type of communication, email, hard copy, or whatever. That's going to get around, and that's going to not only harm your reputation, but the reputation of the organization you work for. They talk.
Yeah, they talk. People talk.
From Jarrell, I deal with the money, running meetings, identity solutions to issues, speak to decision makers with 15 years of tech experience they rely on. Okay.
That's great. It's a lot closer to what an architect is than somebody coding, because we don't do that. Good. That's fantastic experience.
From Simple Trading, what are some of the key AWS tech to know for entry-level cloud roles?
So Simple Trading, first, it's not about any AWS anything. Mm-mm. It's about the technology itself. First, 98% of organizations use more than one cloud. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, simple training, I'm going to give you a secret. There are no entry-level jobs anymore in the cloud. And I'm going to teach you how to get a real job, not an entry-level job. Why are there no entry-level jobs on the cloud? An entry-level job is like a cloud admin. Someone that clicks a couple boxes. Click this box, click this box, click this box, and launch an EC2 instance, which is a virtual machine. Why do I not need that anymore? Because I'll have one DevOps engineer that can launch 1,000 virtual machines in 30 seconds, replacing literally 100 cloud admins jobs like that. I could even use ChatGPT to write a Terraform script to completely eliminate the need for the DevOps engineer that's going to do it in the first place. Now I can take one DevOps engineer instead of 10, have them leverage generative AI scripts, whether it be AWS Code Whisper, Google Bard, ChatGPT, and then do it. So there are no entry-level jobs anymore. They're gone. The entry-level jobs were in the data center. Someone would put a server in their rack and they use the drill, zip, 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 zip. They'd run the cable. We don't need that anymore because the cloud is already there. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. No entry-level cloud jobs. So now let's talk about the cloud jobs that you could get as your entry level. A cloud architect, a DevOps engineer, or a cloud engineer. And they also have completely different sets of skills. One thing that I'll tell you is don't learn AWS, learn the cloud. AWS is just a manufacturer, a brand. Would you only learn how to drive a Honda and not know how to drive a Toyota, Mercedes, a Chevy, a Ford, how to drive? And if you only learn AWS techs, I promise you, you'll be on the unemployment line. And I don't want that for you. I want you to have a great career. So you got to tell me which career you want because they're all different techs, but they're networking and data center jobs. Tell me which one you want because a DevOps engineer needs to learn to code. A cloud engineer also needs to learn to code. But there's a difference between their skills that they need to learn. A cloud architect doesn't need to code, but better learn how to sell. So if you could tell me which job you want, cloud architect or solutions architect is one, cloud engineer is a different, DevOps engineer is a different one, developer is a different job, big data architect on the cloud is an architect, data engineer on the cloud, all different skills. But there's no such thing as an entry-level job anymore. It's sad.
Yeah, in all honesty, you think about if they have some sort of entry level, but they're asking you to architect their multi-million-dollar, maybe multi-billion-dollar organization, are they going to really entrust someone from an entry level? So that's why we train people to go far beyond that. We're not focused on getting you through the door. We want you to walk through that door because they're opening it for you. They want you there because you're knowledgeable, you're competent, you're capable, and you're able to do all these things without zero certifications. And that's why we do what we do here. So if you want to focus on getting more specific with a cloud service provider, once you get in that door, your employer will have no problem getting you the budget you need to get those certifications on their dime, instead of focusing on certifications that are not going to get you in there in the first place. So look at it from that perspective, please. From Emperor Kiro, hey, you guys. So how long does the 40% discount last?
Not much longer. It was for my birthday. We've got a couple days on it left. Maybe this weekend. Not much longer. My team knows better than I do.
From Moose, what kind of sales skills should I focus on developing to become a cloud architect, and what resources or book would you recommend, Mike?
Moose, you're not going to learn how to sell out of a book. You're going to have to take a training program like ours, or do what I did, which is take $30,000, $40,000 worth of sales training. Our Cloud Architect Career Development Program combines it all for less than 2 days pay, but you're not going to learn how to sell out of a book. Now, there are some good sales books. There was the Little Red Book of Selling, which wasn't bad. There was a book called Selling to Veto, which wasn't bad. All the Dale Carnegie things, like How to Win Friends and Win Friends and Influence People, is pretty good. Dale Carnegie had some good strategies that are good, but you're not going to learn how to sell out of a book. You're going to have to learn how to sell. You're going to have to be able to present like a sales rep, or at least an architect. You're going to have somebody tell you how to change your vocal tone, where to make pauses, how to change the energy. You're going to have to learn how to increase your gravitas or executive presence, and it's not going to come from a book. There are some good books, but you're not going to get it out of a book. You're going to have to get training. You know, people think they can try and save a couple of bucks and learn it on their own. They can't. And here's what ultimately happens. And most of the people we have 1,000,001 certifications. They've already come to us. They've already tried for years. They've taken boot camps that focus on the tech. And then they wonder why they can't become an architect, because architects don't do any of the things they were taught. They do all the things that we're describing to you. When someone tries, they think they're going to save, a couple $1,000s by studying on their own. What they don't understand is the average cloud architect earns a little over $800 a day. So when someone saves $2,000 by spending 18 months training on their own, they actually lost over $300,000 to save $2,000. And in the end, a year and a half later, they're still not there. Whether you train with us or you train with somebody else. Now, our entire training program, including the sales, with the sale right now is $1,600. It'll cost you far more than that to go to the Dale Carnegie Institute in Princeton and learn how to sell. It'll be a $5,000, $10,000 a week, but it'll be worth it. If you don't train with us, I'd still rather see you spend $5,000, $10,000 to learn how to sell than try and be an architect and waste a year of your time without it. You don't have to get training from us, but make sure you get it from somewhere. Get sales training. We're cheaper, but we'll get you there.
Farouz, how much is the program?
Program is normally $24.99, which is on average 3 days pay for our average graduate, but right now it's 40% off, which if I do the math in my head is right around the $1,500, $1,600 range, which is about 2 days pay for the average graduate.
I believe the breakdown, Mike, I believe if you choose the 6-month payment plan, I believe that would be around $425, $475. I have to get those actual numbers. Tyrone, if you could help us with that, that would be awesome. But think about how this investment is going to change your trajectory for your career. This is not like a certification farm. This is not like a boot camp where you get a facet or a leg up on a pre-existing position. This is putting you into a whole new realm towards the career and the overall lifestyle that you're looking for. So this is okay for $249.90 over 6 months. Okay, so
I think it's $285.
$285. Okay,
$285. I did the math. For $475, it's 60% is $285.
Okay, so great. So you think about how this could be life-changing for you and how it could change your career trajectory. I think this is a very great investment. We definitely eat our own dog food. We know we've got homegrowns here as well. So think about that for us and Farzad, and consider us and how we'll be able to move you forward and transform you into becoming a cloud architect. From Ice Cream again, I have an idea of using AI to measure equipment efficiency. I could simulate a plant floor using Azure Cloud, Internet of Things, and create an end-to-end proof of concept. Do you think I should put my time in on this?
I wouldn't. Now, if your goal is to be a data scientist, potentially, but I wouldn't, and here's the reason why. There's a lot more IoT than just Azure, so I would do IoT in general, not Azure IoT. And I wouldn't be doing this on Azure machine learning anything. I would be doing it on machine learning things that can work across multiple clouds. Ice Cream, there's going to be many organizations that are going to buy a $100,000 server from NVIDIA instead of paying $40,000 a month every month to AWS. And some of it's going to be in the data center on their Nutanix cloud or their OpenStack cloud. Some of it's going to be in their regular data center. Some of it's going to be on AWS, Azure, Google. The second you do something like this and you put it on a single cloud, you lost all the ability for most of the things and nobody's going to be interested. So I definitely wouldn't do that. Now, if I wanted to be an architect, I wouldn't waste my time on any building things because building will not teach you how to design. And I know we wanted to. I so wanted it to, but it doesn't do anything. And here's the thing. Learning how to code, for example, is no different than learning French. It's learning another language. Learning French, learning French would make you a better cloud architect. Why? Because you could sell to clients that only speak French. Whereas learning Python will do nothing, for example, to help you become an architect because we don't code. So it's like you're asking me, saying, I would like to be an Olympic gymnast, would learning how to fly a plane be helpful? No. So if you want to be there. So if you want to be an architect, this has nothing to do with you. There's no benefit. Now, Ice Cream, I want you to understand this too. The people that build buildings, for example, the construction crew, nobody asked them to design a building. They hire the architect, not that. Pilots are expert at flying airplanes. No one ever asks them to design an airplane. Why? Because the physics involved in designing an airplane, the Bernoulli curve that they have on the airplane wings to get a higher velocity on top of the wing versus a lower velocity on the bottom of the wing, which creates lift, which gets the plane moving and able to fly, is not taught in flight school. So designing things is one thing, building things is something different. Building anything will not teach you anything about design. It will teach you how to build. And how to build is a wonderful skill if you're a builder, like an architect, like an engineer or a data scientist who's going to be building. But as architects, we don't touch the tech. So you didn't really tell me which career, but you kept asking about architect things in the past. So I'm assuming you mean architect. But no, I wouldn't put any time into this. Now, I might build it on my own. For example, I might, collect IoT information. I might buy an RTX 4090 card and stick it in a computer I have and run some machine learning analytics on it, or a Quadro A5000 or A6000 you could do it on. But I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff on the cloud. And here's the reality. The best way to learn the cloud is not to work on the cloud. Huh? What? The best way to learn the cloud, and here's the reason why. If you get a server, for example, and you build a virtual machine on that server with VMware ESXi, for example, you have to learn the server, you have to learn the hypervisor. And then you got to create the virtual machine from scratch. Now you know how that works. When you go to the cloud, you click a button and it just pops up. Somebody else did the work for you. You're basically like turning the key on the car. Does that teach you how your engine works? Of course not. How about storage? Build a file server and learn it the hard way. Now you can just click EFS. It's already done for you. There's nothing to learn. Now, if you're impressed by saying, I can click a button, great. But no hiring manager would be. You need to learn the technology. Learn how to build a network, how to design the network. Then you know what the cloud is. And then when a cloud provider says, we can make you fully redundant, you just uses multiple regions and availability zones, you'll laugh because you're going to know it's the single network. And that's like having a fireproof room in your house that's not made out of any fireproof materials. Here, if you have a fire in your house, go hide in the bedroom. What happens when the whole house catches on fire? It's ridiculous. So the key is to actually learn the underlying technology that makes the cloud work. The underlying technology that makes the machine learning work. Then you're in a position to actually design it, not by doing the work of an engineer. Hi, Icy.
How are you? Hey, Icy. I'm part of the program, and I guarantee it's very in-depth and teaches you everything you need to be successful, to be a successful cloud and or enterprise architect from A to Z. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. We love this.
David, how long does the program take? I'll start here. This is continuous learning, David. So this is not, one of the best analogies I can say is it's not like it's like university. You start and stop, and we only have a limited amount of people, and then we're on to the next block. This is continuous learning. So when you are a part of our program, you're going to have, there's two parts to it. There's going to be the continuous on-demand learning that we have, and then we're going to have the live classes. The continuous on-demand learning, you're going to have access to that for the rest of your life. And you're going to have access to the live classes, which we have 3 times a week. That would be for 365 days. So to your point, it's all about what you're able to commit. Okay, so we've had some really exceptional and very rare cases where people have banged this out in about 45 days. The normal time frame is usually 8 to 12 months. Okay, but it's all about what your ability is to commit on a daily basis. And half an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's about how you're going to be able to absorb and be competent and be able to relay this information in a business transformative presentation to us, and how we're able to gauge your competency so that you're going to be ready to start interviewing and getting your resume together and your LinkedIn profile and so forth. So, David, to your point, it's all up to you.
And I'm going to take this. David, you're in the program until you're hired.
Yes.
I'm going to say this again. You're in the program until you're hired. We are not a boot camp. We would never charge somebody $35,000 like somebody charged Daniel Bessa to help him get a job. And in the end, he had nothing. He came to me and said, "What do I do?" And I was horrified to see what he didn't even know. Somebody gave him some garbage training. It was a guy that never worked in tech before in his life, and then told people he can help people get tech jobs. It was sad. So we took good care of him. You come to our program and you stay in it until you're hired. Whether it takes you 6 months, 12 months, it doesn't matter to us. And everybody has things that happen in their life. We had one great student. She had to go visit her mother in Ethiopia for about a year. She came back. We took her in the program. We love her. She's doing great. We had another person that had to go to India for a little while. Great. So what? They went to India for 6 months. They came back, and they're back in the program. In our program, you are in it until the day you are hired. You get a year's access to the live classes. You get unlimited access to our Slack community and unlimited access to our videos, including the new videos that get uploaded every single week. And you will continue to do our program until you are hired. Now, I had people like Richard Afukar, who got out of my program, was hired by AWS in 3 weeks. We had Joe Millen, who was hired by AWS as a senior solution architect in 3 weeks. And we have other people that have taken a year to get there. Life is different. We all learn at different paces. And, all of our lives are different. But if you're one of our students, you'll be with us until you are hired. And when you are hired, we'll be all kinds of excited. Alonzo and I and Chris, we all have a happy dance. Chris's is a little interesting. Mine, I've got 2 bad feet, so it's more of a hip and upper body movement thing. I have a bad foot from a martial arts accident, and Alonzo's the best of all of us. But we all have our happy dance.
From Augustine, you mentioned 3 important certifications. Could you please reiterate them?
Okay, Augustine, I'm going to make it clear. There are no such thing as an important certification. Certifications are nothing. They're wrapping paper. You are what's important. You, your skills, your knowledge, your capability is the only thing that matters. I've gotten plenty of people great jobs with 0 certifications. I interview people with 1,000,001 certifications that are not hireable. So you are what matters. Your skill set is what matters. Your communication skills are what matters. Your leadership skills, what matters. Your emotional intelligence, what matters. Your business acumen, that's what matters. Now, after you have all of the skills, and only after you have all the skills, it's nice to have pretty polish on you, pretty wrapping paper. For that, I like either the AWS Solution Architect Professional or the Azure Solution Architect, one of the 2. Next, I like a networking certification like a CCNP or a CCIE. And after that, I like a TOGAF. That's it. But again, you don't need any of these certifications. You need the skills. So skills first, certification second. We've got about 20 minutes. If you've got any questions, please ask them. We truly want to help you.
Okay. At Ken, do you think cloud architects who can code will have an edge? A blunt one.
Yeah. So ice cream, I think it would be better if you learned how to give a presentation. There is no benefit for you knowing how to code. None, 0. Now, if you learn Italian, it might help you design your architectures to Italian people. If you learn to code, you learn somebody else's job, and the better you are at somebody else's job, the less good you are at your job because you changed your focus. We do not code. We do not touch the technology. We do not configure the technology. And if you do so, you'll be fired. We are not allowed to. There are people that we hire to do the coding, and believe me, most of them are not even in the US. If you go to a big consulting company, the architect like me sells it. And after it's done being sold, they hire a development team in India, Pakistan, Africa, someplace else where they can find really motivated, really good developers at a lower cost. We do not code. It is not an advantage to code. Would you think it would be an advantage to be a chef? Do you think it would be an advantage to be a winemaker? Do you think it would be an advantage to be, well, if you were a pro football player, that would be an advantage because people would see you as a team player. Do you think it would be an advantage to be a marathon runner? No. Learning the skills from somebody else's job is meaningless for your job.
And one of the things when we had last week when Mike was on vacation, we invited 2 of our graduates who became enterprise architects, and Jermaine Houghton, he spoke about how he thought he was going to be able to help leverage his coding abilities for the organization, and it was met adversely, to say the least. So understand that if you start combining all this stuff that's not relevant to becoming a cloud architect, it deviates from you honing your skills to become a great cloud architect. Then what are the cloud engineers supposed to do? So you are not only multitasking, which you can't focus on to be a very good one, but you're also taking away from other people doing their jobs, and you may not be able to do them as well as others. Of course, you're not going to be able to, because you're supposed to be a cloud architect. So you're not going to have the ticker tape parade that you think you're going to when you're able to code and architect as well. They're going to tell you, focus on this job, or you will probably be asked to focus on another job outside of the organization.
And it's funny. I know some people, even one guy at AWS, he came to us as a student. He wanted to code. Got hired by AWS. And next thing I realized, he's back to being a software engineer. Why? Because he loved to code. I want you to understand it from a business perspective. Our job is to improve somebody's business. If you're focusing on the code, you're not focusing on the business. I want you to see why. Why is this so critical? Here's what happens when you code. And you have to really focus on something. So let me show you. I'll give you an example. I'm going to show you, this is something that happened in my backyard. Isn't the squirrel cute? Now, if I was a squirrel podiatrist, I would have to zoom in on that squirrel's foot. If I was a veterinarian, I'd have to be 100% focused on that squirrel. Everything in this picture looks great, right? I'm zoomed in just like you would have to be to code. It looks really great. See any danger here? No, because you're focused on the code. You're focused on the close thing. Now, I'm going to show you the reality, what was really going on here when I didn't blow it up. And this is why we are not allowed to touch the tech, and you'll be fired if you do, as in most architect jobs, because you're going to lose focus on what matters. See, and Tyrone, please share this. What I previously zoomed in on was the little squirrel that looked awfully happy, right? What you couldn't see because we were focused is that little cat over there. Her name is Cindy. She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's loving, and she terrorizes anything smaller than her. She brings me a squirrel as a present every single day. She brings me lizards, she brings me birds, she brings me rats. And if you're focused on the big picture like the architect, you can see that squirrel. If you're not focused on the big picture, you can't see my cat ready to eat the squirrel for lunch. And that's why we can't focus on the tech.
From JP, hi Mike, happy belated birthday wishes. I can understand that architects don't code. However, in most of the architect interviews, people are asking if we know Python, JavaScript, etc. How do we handle this?
Okay, actually, if you're doing a cloud architect interview the right way, you will never be asked about this. But JPS, I want to give you an example. If your resume is wrong, they're going to go down the engineering path. I had a student, Arun. And Arun was one of my most technical students of all time, even though he never worked in tech before. He had this ridiculous AWS developer, AWS sysops on his resume, AWS DevOps. He talked about Python and all this other hands-on tech stuff. He must have went on 15 interviews, and everybody was asking about coding and DevOps. And he says, Mike, what's going on? What about all this coding stuff? And I said, can I see your resume? See, the resume drives your interview. And he had this AWS developer associate. He had all these coding things, and he had it listed there. He got asked it about code. I've been an architect for 25 years, and nobody's ever asked me if I can code. I've done thousands of interviews, and I've never seen anybody that had a good resume ask if they could code. So first, it's your resume. What did we do with Arun? I got rid of his DevOps certification. I got rid of all the garbage related to Python and Java that he had on it. I got rid of his sysops certification and his developer associate certification. Within 1 month, he had real architect interviews, and he had 3 job offers. He took one for about 6 months and then got a promotion and got a better job. So that's the key. What is on your resume is what's going to be asked. What does your resume look like? Now, if somebody asked me if I could code, Alonzo, ask me if I can code.
Mike, do you have any coding capabilities?
Alonzo, in the last 25 years as an architect, I've never learned to code. Now, I am an expert at digital transformation. In fact, I can give you 3 banks that I've improved their business efficiency by over 3%. I've closed multiple billion-dollar deals as an architect. I've designed 5 nines available systems by evaluating and finding people's network problems. I've assisted organizations in being more efficient, and I can help you as well. But since coding is not part of my job, I focused on being the best architect I could be, not learning how to be somebody else's engineer. If that's not good for you, I totally understand, and I could learn to code if I'd like. Now, that's one option. Now, what, JP, would I do if I was a brand new architect without those 25 years of experience? Alonzo, ask me this question. Ask me the same question, can I code?
Mike, do you have any coding capabilities?
Alonzo, I want to be totally honest with you. I don't know how to code, but I'm energetic, enthusiastic, and truly passionate about technology. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly. And if coding was important to you, I'd do whatever it takes to learn coding, whether I had to stay up all night, attend training, whatever it is, I'd be great at it for you. But if you really want to know my areas of competency, it is in cloud architecture, network architecture, and enterprise architecture, and I'd love to discuss any of these things with you in depth. Now, why did I do that, JPS? Because first, I know that we architects don't code. Now, if you're in an interview and they ask you about coding, it's not an architect job. But why did I do this? Do you know what hiring managers care about? I'm going to tell you right now. They care about, are you able to do the job? And I proved to Alonzo that I was by showing him what I did know. They care, do you know what you know and know what you don't know? Because most people make errors because they don't know their limitations. They think they know things that they don't. They care, can they trust you? Can Alonzo trust me after I told that? Alonzo, I want to be honest with you. I don't know how to do this. I sure did. They care whether you're energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work. Alonzo, did I convince you I was energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work?
You did.
Did I convince you I knew my limitations?
You did. You were honest with them.
Did I show you what the things that I knew?
Check.
Is there anything that you were concerned about at the end of that interview?
Only when you can get you can start the position.
So that's kind of the key. The key is positioning yourself. Now, JPS, I promise you this, on every single interview, I will ask a question that I guarantee you don't know the answer to. And I usually go down some geeky networking path, like, could you tell me the type of LSAs that exist in an area? Or could you tell me what the BGP community no export actually means? Or could you tell me how to BGP peer with 15 ISPs and load share across all of them without getting out of our packets? Why do I do this? Because I want to see if the person's going to lie to me or give me an honest answer. Usually speaking, we ask something we don't need you to know. And guess what? You know, there was a buddy of mine that lived in an area where people plowed a lot of snow. And he used to love to buy used trucks. And you know what he always used to ask the person? How does she plow? Like, how does the truck plow? And the reason he asked this question is he knew that if somebody did a lot of plowing with the trucks, the frame would be bent, and it wouldn't be a good long-term truck. So they intentionally asked this. I might ask somebody, what's your coding skills like? Because if they tell me how great they are, I don't want to hire them because that means they're not an architect. So they could also be asking you that. So it's all about positioning yourself intelligently. I always ask people things that I know they don't know because I want to see if I can trust them. Alonzo, how important is trust to me as a CEO?
There's no price tag on it with Mike. He is implicit about his value in his ability. I don't even have the words, and normally I'm not at a loss for them, but that's the importance of what he applies to being loyal. He needs to know that I can be trustworthy. Chris, Child, Tyrone, everyone else, Leo, Ebenezer, the list goes on. And we have to always showcase that we can be trusted, because trust is not an action. It's a lifestyle. It's something that you have to showcase on LinkedIn. You have to showcase on your resume that you can be able to handle these things. And that like you said, if he walks out the door and he goes on vacation for a whole week, that things are not going to be, burning and coming down in flames. We have to be able to showcase our trustworthiness and that he's content, capable, and he knows that business will continue as per usual when he leaves and when he comes back.
And I've performed about 6,000 interviews at this time. One of the saddest things, and this is for all of you, I actually used to keep a cookie jar in my office because I've had to interview so many people. And typically happens, you ask someone a competency question. The second they bluff or lied, I started feeding them cookies. And I don't eat sugar, I don't eat flour, I don't eat butter. I'm kind of a crazy health nut. But I used to start feeding them cookies. And, my manager would come in and he's like, you got a lot of cookies in your office. And I said, well, somebody lied to me. And he said, why don't you tell them to get the F out of the office? I said, I felt like that was rude. I figured I should just feed them cookies and that way I don't have to listen to another word they told me. And then I still can't hire them. But I didn't want to leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth, so I fed them cookies. I figured they dressed up, they worked hard, they got here, I fed them cookies. The key is you just simply can't hire someone you don't trust. So the evidence is you're going to be great. I just wanted to make sure that we gave you the answer with the full depth around it.
From Julius again. Hello, Mike. Based on the sample response you just gave to the question you don't know the answer to, if saying such and telling the hiring manager what you know and he still asks what you don't know.
I'm not going to ask what you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's when you're going to get this. Alonzo, ask me what is BGP and what C is. Now, Julius, I'm going to show you when you're going to get an answer like that and what's going to happen.
Okay. Mike, could you explain to us what BGP is and when would you use it?
BGP is a routing protocol. You got to use it everywhere. Now, once I said that, now Alonzo's angry, but you can't see it. Now Alonzo's going to get real deep. And he's going to say, Mike, could you tell me the BGP decision tree? And if I gave him that first silly answer, it's because I don't know it. Now, Alonzo's going to ask me the question the right way. Alonzo, to ask me the same first question is, what is BGP and why should you choose?
Okay, Mike, could you explain to us what is BGP and when would you use it?
Absolutely, Alonzo. BGP is an exterior gateway protocol. And what that means is we use it to connect to external entities. BGP uses a path vector protocol to make its decision making, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. BGP is also TCP based. Instead of being a unicast being a multicast protocol like OSPF or EIGRP, it's unicast based, meaning we must set up the neighbor relationship between two things. BGP is used because it's highly scalable. For example, when we connect to the internet via an ISP, we're going to get about 800,000 routes. If we have to connect to 10 different internet service providers, we're going to get 8 million. And BGP is the only routing protocol that can handle 8 million routes. We also use BGP because BGP is the only routing protocol, except for distance vector routing protocols, which don't scale and are not designed for large networks or optimized for speed and convergence. And by doing so, I can send certain prefixes to one ISP versus another ISP to load share. I can also use BGP for its security because if I don't send a route to someone, they can't reach it. Because BGP is scalable and tunable, it's used constantly to connect to external organizations such as internet service providers and cloud providers. Now, Alonzo, are you going to ask me any more questions about BGP?
No.
He's satisfied.
Shut it down.
So what happens is, as interviewers, when we ask someone a question and we get an answer that makes us laugh, we have to see if you know something. So we're going to pummel you with a question, and it's going to get real bad real fast. If you give us a good question, a good answer in the first place, or an honest answer, we're not going to do this. I don't know this. Okay, I'm not even going to try and find out. But if I feel like you bluffed to me, I am going to harass you. For example, watch. Alonzo, what is an OSPF LSA? Don't give me a good answer.
OSPF is the inside protocol for BGP.
Okay, could you differentiate the difference between a type 2 LSA and a type 1 LSA?
And that's when you get in trouble.
That's what's going to happen.
He'll start digging and digging. And if you don't understand OSPF, open shortest path first, and what it breaks down to and why it's faster than exterior and so forth, you're going to start really digging a hole for yourself. So that's what we talk about, the shut down the interview, is that if they give you a specific question, you drill down to it to the point where they have no reason to ask you any more about that specific subject, just like Mike illustrated.
Yeah, and you're not going to get this if you interview right. Julius, you're in our program. Make sure you do the interview training after you have the skills, because we want to make sure you get a great job, and you're going to do great on interviews. The interview is nothing. I've never been on an interview where I didn't get hired. Never. Now, admittedly, I've spent 25 years learning interview tactics and training people in it, but why do I always get hired in an interview? Two things. One is I always look up the organization. I always interview from the hiring manager's perspective. I know what they care about, and I show them how I can do their needs. What do most people do on an interview? They try to make themselves look smart. I'm a great coder. Alonzo doesn't want a coder. I just convinced him not to hire me. You know, when I was younger, I made a really stupid mistake. I had just met my wife, and we were dating. And I thought, because I was a firefighter paramedic, that's how I was paying my way through college, I thought hanging out at the firehouse and lifting weights was going to be really fun, so I thought it was going to be a great date. So I brought my wonderful girlfriend to the firehouse to go work out with me, because, you know, I like to work out. And she looked at me and she said, "Why did you bring me here? What's going on with these people? Why are they grunting and why are they whistling at me?" I'm like, "You're in a firehouse." And she's like, "No, dear, this is not the place for me." And I learned just because I like something doesn't mean somebody else likes it. You have to sell your client that you, and the hiring manager is effectively your client, on why you are everything that they need and everything that they want. Not that you're good at everything else. I don't care how good Alonzo can code, because he doesn't work for me as a programmer. I don't care how good he is at taking care of dogs. Why? We don't take care of dogs in our business. I care how good Alonzo is as marketing is, as my chief marketing officer. I care how good he is as an educator when he communicates with our students and he makes them better. I care how good he is as a coach. I care how good he is as a friend, because Alonzo's my friend. We're practically like twin brothers. If you actually talk to us, we're so similar. I spoke with Alonzo's wife the other day and I closed my eyes for a second and listened to her. I thought it was my wife. It was freakishly scary. Those things matter to me. His ability to do that job here, yeah, that matters to me. His ability to do somebody else's job, I don't care if he flies planes or is a retired Navy SEAL in the background. I don't care. Actually, if he was a SEAL, I think it would be great. So,
I wonder if we have any more questions. If you do, I know that we've had a little bit more time because we have more meetings that we have to attend to, and as Mike is back, we've got to get going and improving our curriculum. So we would love to ask any last minute questions. If not, then take it over, Mike.
Okay, so if another question comes in, I can answer one or two more. But in the meantime, take advantage of my 40% off birthday discount. You can just see some of that every single day, people that are actually getting hired, some testimonials on our YouTube video channel. We don't post most of them. I'm in the business of getting people hired, not really promoting ourselves. We could, but you know, we've got enough people that want to come to us, but I want to help you. That's why we're running a sale for my birthday, because it's a birthday present for me when you guys get hired. Please join us tonight on the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. Here, we will go through the entire list. Everything from ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP, all of them, to BGP, to VLANs, to the switching things you need to know, to the data center things you need to know, to the database things you know. We cover it all. And you will have a perfect list of every skill you need to learn. And whether you train with us or train on your own, you will know 100% of everything you need to get an incredible cloud architect job. And believe me, there are an incredible amount of things that you need to do. So keep that in the back of your mind. Join us tonight on that webinar, and you will learn a lot. And we're thrilled that you could be here.
One more from Julius, new to the program. As a new person, how do I participate when older people are doing their work as they are ahead of me?
Well, actually, Julius, we did it intentionally this way because I'm a martial artist. I also practice medicine. Alonzo's a martial artist. Guess what? Do you know what happens when you go to a martial arts class? You got experts like Alonzo and I that have been practicing martial arts our whole lives. You got people that just joined yesterday, and you've got people that are everywhere in between. Why do we love that? Well, people like Alonzo and I can help mentor the people when we all work together as a group. So Julius, do your class on order. Remember, read page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, all the way to the 1,000 videos that are in our program. Do it in order. That's self-paced for you. When we do architecture classes and we design architectures together, guess what? Work with the team. So what's going to happen when you go out there and you get your first job at Microsoft? There's going to be architects like me with 25 years experience and people like you that were just hired for your first job. That's the reason for that. They're going to work with you, so please do so. Because when we have architectures that are designed as a group, here's really what happens. The people that are ready to get hired have their cameras on and they participate. The people that have been there for a couple months help them. And the new people like you that just joined watch and observe and learn. Now, guess what? Those senior people get hired. They're off at Microsoft and Deloitte and Accenture and KPMG and Apple and JP Morgan Chase and PricewaterhouseCoopers and all these other prestigious organizations that hire our people. They're now hired. Those junior students, those intermediate students are now senior, getting ready to get hired, leading it. And now you as a junior are now intermediate. Poof, you work together and there are some newbies that are there. They're doing the thing. Next, those senior people get hired and now you're the senior person when you get there. And by doing so, you're there. That's why you have fourth-year residents and third-year residents and second-year residents and interns in medicine that all work together. That's why you've got black belts and white belts in the same class working together in martial arts for that reason. And that's why we have a community of people that have been in this field forever in different fields. Working architects, executives, VPs from big tech companies that are all part of our program to make sure you get the full spectrum. Worry about yourself and your learning plan, follow directions accordingly, and leverage and benefit from the experience. People like Praveen that were in our program, that was a big data architect that we turned into a cloud architect. Or people like Angelo, who was a phenomenal application architect that we turned into an enterprise architect. People like Pritipal Sejan, who got an incredible enterprise architect job after our program, who came from the software background. Doesn't matter. Lohit was a software developer. We turned him into a cloud architect, and he now works at AWS. No matter where your beginning is, you'll get to the end. So we'll have a fun class, Julius, tomorrow on architect thinking. It's going to be all kinds of fun, and I'm looking forward to teaching it. So join us all tonight on the webinar. Please join us. I promise you that it's an experience that'll give you everything you need to know to change your life, and that's our whole goal. And of course, take advantage of this 40% off discount because we won't be running it for long. And we will never have a discount this big for another year. So take advantage of it while it exists. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thanks for joining us.